Thank you, Gary, for meeting with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, um, tell me a little bit about your hockey journey and how it led you to becoming Ashburn Xtreme's executive director and also its winning its coach.
So it started at a very young age. And then I went to the University of New Hampshire. I really didn't play there, but I stayed involved. I watched film and did some work on different projects for them. And then I kind of went into the Marine Corps, and then I started my family. And my son got big into roller hockey. I used to play with all the kids in the cul-de-sac, and the team got really good. And we went to USA Hockey Nationals. You used to have USA Hockey Roller Hockey Nationals. Well, my son was 13 and 14. We won both the national championships. We won 13 USA Roller Hockey National Championship when he was 13, and then he won when he was 14. And when he was 14, that's still probably the best team I've ever coached. They never lost a game, and nobody gave them a game. And they went through everyone at nationals, and it was really something. Then they actually got so good at roller hockey, I got them into ice hockey as a kind of a secondary sport. And then they loved it so much, they quit roller hockey and started getting ice hockey. So then I started coaching at the Stonebridge High School, and we won the first 2 years. I guess I got lucky. We won the championship the first 2 years, and the Ashburn Xtreme said, "Hey, would you like to coach the U16 team?" And at that time it was U17, and I did, and it was the first team for Ashburn to go to nationals, and then the next year we won again. So then everyone started to come. So.
Wow. So, well, good thing you talk about nationals. So, after winning the USA Hockey National Championship for the 2004s this past spring, it's undeniable your skill in terms of coaching great teams. Now, how many times have your teams been to nationals and won the national championship?
The Ashburn Xtreme has taken 38 teams to nationals. Now I've coached 18 of them. So,
Wow.
And I've won 2 of them, and the Ashburn Xtreme has won 4. And it's really a great accomplishment, because that's not an easy thing to do. At first, you used to have to win districts. The first 6 years we did it, and to be honest with you, the first 2 years I won, we weren't the best team there. We got kind of lucky. We got a few breaks. And then once those few breaks started going in, and then everyone started to come to Ashburn, and then it became a lot easier. It's always a lot easier when you have better talent. So the first couple of years, I had 20 players tried out. After going to nationals like 15 years in a row, now I have 100. So it helps.
Wow. So now what makes the Ashburn Xtreme program unique?
I think that with all the rule changes this year, everyone said, will it affect Ashburn? It really won't, because we've always emphasized like speed, skill, skate some more. And so we haven't changed anything. I've never done a hitting drill in my 30, 40 years of coaching. It's always about skating, headbanging the puck, shooting, passing. So we've always been kind of ahead of that. And we've always de-emphasized the physical part of the game. And it's always seemed to help develop good hockey players. It's worked for us.
So now with those things that you find important, speed, skating, so what are you doing at Ashburn to help develop those skills in your players?
I've had a lot of players, like I told you, at first I had 20 players try out. And then towards the last 15, 16 years, I've had a lot of players try out. And everyone tells me the biggest difference in Ashburn, at least for my team, is the speed of the practice. They say everything's so fast. Everything is at high pace. I kind of tell the players, you have to do it 100% all the time. I have a lot of little quirky phrases I use. One of them is, I hate to get corny here, but like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. And the other one I always say, the harder you work, the greater the reward. It's not my rules. Those are nature's rules. It doesn't matter if you're studying for a math test or a science test or a job. The harder you work, the more you'll get out of it. And if you don't work hard at this practice, you're not getting anything out of it. So it's really, I think that's what I've been told is a huge difference when people come. They said, they said if you can survive the practice, the games are easy. So
you have a gym inside the rink, and do you think that helps create chemistry for the teams as well?
It definitely does. It definitely does. We have a great facility. The Ashburn Ice House is just simply a great facility for us. And I make everyone kind of work out during the summer. Another phrase I use, I say everyone has the equal opportunity to become unequal. So if you work harder than somebody else during the off season, it's something that'll really pay off. And, instant gratification isn't there. Everyone always wants to win when they play, but are you willing to really work when 6 months before then to really get that? And the other thing that I really have to mention about Ashburn, the key is we have a hockey director there, Troy McCormick. He's probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And he's both the hockey director for the rink. He's also the hockey director for the Xtreme. And he is probably the major reason Xtreme has, won all these awards. And I think they were the second best club in the country by my hockey rankings for a 10-year study. And he's probably he is the biggest reason.
So with that being said, what do you think, chemistry wise, makes a great team?
Chemistry is developed by a coach by treating everyone fairly. So everyone knows that I could very easily yell at the best player if he does something, or the least talented player. And you try to develop respect, and respect goes two ways. All the respect in the world to every player. I expect it back. And it's kind of like just an environment we've created here, and I always tell people that we have a parent meeting at the beginning of every season where we get all the parents in there, every team before tryouts. And I always tell them, I said, the Xtreme is not for everyone. It's a total commitment. It's a parent commitment. It's a player commitment. I mean, if you're the best player on my team and you only want to show up on Tuesday because you have something on Thursday, that's not going to work here. So I think it's just the environment's created a chemistry. And then what helps is you win. You start winning. And then everyone just expects it, and it takes off from there.
Right. So we know, based on the chemistry and the players there have been a few rinks that have opened up that are also competing with Ashburn for players. So have you had to do anything different to keep the same caliber of players coming to the program?
I would say I've done nothing differently. We just try to do the best we can. We let what we've done in the past and what we've done to take care of itself. If you get me as a coach, you're going to get somebody that's totally committed to making you a better player, and more importantly, a better person. And I'm just going to, but if you want to go play somewhere else, I'll give you all that. I said, go ahead. I always coach the midget age kids, which usually U16, U18. And a lot of the players will leave the club. Matter of fact, I did actually a little homework today, knowing that I was going to talk to you. 40% of the Washington Little Cap players started out at Ashburn, exactly 40.27 or something like that, started out at Ashburn. And 6 of their head coaches now also played at Ashburn. They only have 8 or 9 teams. So a lot of times they come back to play for my midget team. And, a lot of that has to do maybe with the fact that they maybe know they're not going to the NHL or something like that, and they want to have a good 2 years left. They know they're going to play for a top program. It's challenging. And Ashburn has such a reputation around the country. We're allowed in all the AAA tournaments.
Yep.
So they always let us in, and we make the final, and they don't do as well. So sometimes we get lucky breaks, but we've done very well. And we've actually won the AAA tournament in Chicago in Bauer 1 year. So
wow.
So
That's
they let us come. So
incredible. They know your worth.
yeah.
Okay, so for players who want to get on your radar, can you tell me 3 things that they could do to get noticed?
Yeah. First of all, I look at, are you a good skater? And I'm not saying all my players are great skaters, but that's the first thing I look at. Can you separate? Can you skate? Because it's really a skating game. I have an advantage too, because I also run the high school league here in Virginia. I probably know almost anybody that I see as a good skater because I love watching the game. So if I see somebody from Fairfax, or I see somebody from Arlington or Alexandria or Leesburg or something, there's a pretty good idea that I've seen him before. And they'll come up to me and they'll say, hey, how can I make your team? I said, listen, I usually tell them try out for my spring team. And I'll be brutally honest with you. I says, if I think you want to make it, you don't have to try out for anybody. I'll tell you that. But I said, I'm going to err on the side of caution. If I think you're in the middle, I might say you're a little below middle. And I said, if I think you're on the bubble, and I said, listen, if I'm going to take you, you're not. And I've never went back on my word on anybody I've told that was going to make it. And so I've been pretty true to that. And but if you want it up front and you want to kind of know where you stand, I'd say go to the spring thing. The spring, which is called the Ashburn Power Play Selects. It's like a month program, and we just play in 1 or 2 tournaments, and it helps me look at a player in a game-like environment instead of just 4 practices. And it actually helps and changes my opinion sometimes. And even though we usually win that tournament, I have no desire to win that tournament. It's strictly an evaluation for me. Like I'll be playing this last year where, the score might be 2-2, and I'm playing the 4th line because I want to see who on that 4th line I might take in the fall. And so winning is not a priority for me there, even though we do pretty well.
Okay. So how many teams do you have all together with the Xtreme?
We have 15 teams, and we have three at Squirt. We always have a birth year team. We have a birth year team, like say the U10 year. That year now is birth year 12 and 11. So we'll have a birth year 11 team and a birth year 12 team. And whoever doesn't make either one of those teams, we call it the X team, which is a combination of 11 and 12. And a lot of people look at it, and some parents will say, well, my birth year 11 is better than that birth year 12 who made the team. The X team, we call it, is strictly a developmental team for us, where we try to get as most as possible 50-50 on that team. And the coach I pick for that team, or the coach Troy picks for that team, we tell them we're not really looking to win. We're looking to develop those players. So we want everyone to play fairly. We want everyone to develop. And even though it's probably easier if there's a bantam player, because a lot of times there's a big difference between a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old. Right. Coach will say, hey, I want the 14-year-old to play. I said, listen, I don't want that. I want them all to play even, because the 13-year-old is going to be going to nationals next year, hopefully for our bantam team. And we want him to develop just as much as somebody else. So, and at U16, we have 3 teams. The U16 one team, if I was to say, is probably year in, year out the best team at Ashburn. I mean, they've been ranked number 1 in the country, I think 4 or 5 times. They've only won the national championship once, but year in, year out, they can play with anybody in the country. But the U16 team it's a tough age group to win at. There's a lot of good talent out there. And then the U18 age group, we have 2 teams usually. And the last few years, I've coached the top U16 team and the top U18 team. And the U18 team has won the national championship 3 times. And they're pretty strong. But at the same time, at the tier 2 level, the U18s, a lot of the good players have left and have gone to juniors, right, where Ashburn keeps their players because they're going to college. And so they're using their senior year, and they're going to college the next year, where maybe if you were in Massachusetts or Detroit or somewhere else, that same 17, 18-year-old player that I played against when my 16-year-old played, they're probably playing for a junior team. A good example is one year, my U16 team and U18 team were both going to nationals. The U18 team won the nationals, but my U16 team was a better team than that team, and they beat them in a scrimmage. It's just a different age group.
Right. And then also the kids that go to juniors, a lot of times they are not going to college until they're maybe 20.
Sometimes parents don't really look at where their son really belongs. That's somewhat sad, because unless they just want to play hockey till they're 20, 21, because there are so many junior teams out there, they'll take somebody up until you'll have a home any way you want till 21 if you're willing to pay. And but there's a lot of, if you're paying to play at that level, the chances of you making it to the next level are very, very slim. You know, if you're playing in the North American League or the USHL, they're paying you to play, and usually you have some type of commitment from a college or understanding that this is where I want you to play. And we've had quite a few players from Ashburn do that. It's a total different feeling. But if you're paying like $6,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 to play junior hockey when you're 18, you can do that 18, 19, 20, 21 anytime you want. But you're not really probably going to move on too high in the sport. So that's just the reality of it.
My final question is, so we don't know what's happening in terms of COVID-19. Now, sometimes it's winding down, it's ramping up with the Delta variant, but what do you have in store for the coming season?
You know, that's a tough question, because that question was in front of us all last year too. And we just got to take it week to week. We're really at the mercy of the state. I mean, the rinks are going to stay open because around here, they're privately owned. They got to stay in business. So they're going to sell the ice. Really, the only time it's dictated that they got to shut down is if the state says you can't have contact, you can't have so many people in the rink and stuff, things of that nature. So we just got to pray and hope that it continues to go in the right direction and we get a season in, because everyone's ready to go and everyone wants to play.
Thank you, Gary, for taking the time to chat with me. I appreciate all this information about Ashburn Xtreme. It's an exciting program, and I just wanted everyone to know more about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk, and it's a pleasure to see you again. I know your son was in our program at one time, and he's one of the ones that moved on to bigger and greater things, and that's what we hope for everyone.